It's the fastest hour on Portland Community Media. Welcome. This is Outside the Box TV. I'm Alex Ansary, and this is edition 341, How Time Flies, for March 1st, 2015. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever the case may be you in Portland, Oregon, or be you on the other side of the planet watching at youtube.com/AlexAnsary or alexansary.tv. Special announcement to start this show. I'm in a pretty good mood about it. I have jumped in the fire, if you, so to speak. I'm doing a daily radio show again. American Freedom Radio has relaunched, and last Wednesday I had Freeman from freemantv.com. The next day I had Dane Wigantine from geoengineeringwatch.org. And on Friday I talked with Thomas Sheridan of thomassheridanarts.com. All very interesting interviews. I'm going to be editing out the commercials and putting them on my YouTube channel. At the end of today's show, I'm going to play just an excerpt from my interview with Freeman. Tune in live, and if you want, call in. 2 o'clock West Coast time, that's 4 o'clock Central Standard Time, right there on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. This is Outside the Box TV, and the format for this show is the one where I really get deep into what's going on in the microcosm of the macrocosm, and that's the real Portlandia, the world that we live in. So in the first part of the show, got some really important things to share with you relating to things happening on the local level. We'll get that video ready in just a minute. But then we're also going to get into national stories and international stories. So for those of you that have watched my show for years, you've seen me talk about this relationship with China and the United States. And in this economic decline that we're seeing, regardless of the fact that you may be working or some people may still have a home, the economy in the United States is not in a good position. And so we're seeing a lot of foreign investment in the United States. China has actually propped up the housing market in California. And there's more and more large chunks of land that are being sold to China by the day. And this is all leading to something, and you're going to see it in your lifetime. Now, I've warned you, and I've told you, that as we see the relationship between Portland and China grow, they're going to play a larger role in things here in the Pacific Northwest. Well, in video number 2, I've never seen the mayor of Portland so excited. Guess who the new investors are in Portland, Oregon at the South Waterfront?
Is in the works along the South Waterfront. What's driving all the investment there? Ken Body is live at the site of the new Hyatt House Hotel. Ken.
Well, this hotel development behind me is just one of several projects going up in and around Portland's waterfront. And in this case, it's an indication that foreign investors are willing to put millions into the Rose City. Here's what it will look like. A 200-room, $53 million Hyatt House Extended Stay Hotel in Portland's River Place district, right next to South Waterfront. Mayor Hales is among those breaking ground.
If it's going to be a complete neighborhood, we need housing, we need commerce, we need hotels, which is what we're getting more of with this project, and soon we'll need a grocery store because it's becoming a neighborhood.
The Hyatt is mostly financed by investors from China. Under a federal initiative called EB-5, foreign nationals can get green cards for them and their families if they invest at least $500,000 in a targeted area and are vetted through U.S. immigration. What would you say to people who say, well, this is people buying citizenship or buying a green card to America? Is that how you see it?
No, I don't think so.
Selinka Zhao represents Chinese investing in the U.S. and Canada.
The purpose for them is to want to send their kids to America because Americans' education and university is so well known in the world.
The Hyatt is just one of many new developments, including apartments and retailers going in and around South Waterfront. The biggest development in the history of Portland. It stalled several years ago in the down economy. I talked to developer Homer Williams, who told me he was still confident even then.
We always felt that this was going to be the future for Portland down here.
And he was right.
And that future is
and
now,
he was right.
with streetcar and tram connections, children playing, and new residents moving in.
A little something to add to that. 4 years ago, what is now the former governor of Oregon said that Oregon was open for business, and it featured Kit Hopper doing some sort of, Star Trek kind of how it was like pressing his palm against a visiting Chinese diplomat, but for whatever reason, the Oregon Live article did not show the face of the Chinese diplomat. Kind of creepy. It's like Oregon's open for business, putting the ass up on the table, you know, how much you got to spend. So you want to talk about gentrification on steroids? And yes, the Chinese government is telling their people, get your money out of our country and invest in the United States. Trust us, you'll thank us later. And so people are going, well, what's wrong with a little economic cooperation? Nothing's wrong with a little economic cooperation. This is globalization. This is the new world order, a further merger of the West and the East. But what's disturbing about it? While they develop closer ties, they're also building bigger weapons, and China has now outpaced the U.S. Navy in production of nuclear submarines. And Russia's going to the moon with China as they establish their new International Space Center. So look at the big picture, not just the, oh, look at this, it's greater cooperation. Oh no, America is being sold to not necessarily the highest bidder. These agreements with China have been made for a long time, and the trade deficit and the national debt all plays a really big part in this. And so this is a story that'll keep you updated on. The Port of Portland is another big story with Hanjin, the South Korean company that's made their announcements. They're pulling out in March. That's going to destroy 657 jobs, blue-collar jobs. And by the way, if you're one of those 657, give me an email, and maybe you would be a good guest on the show, because it is not the fault of the longshoremen for why this is taking place. You know, they're fighting for their pensions, they're fighting for their jobs, they're fighting for their livelihood. It's not the fault of the longshoremen that we've had this shutdown on the West Coast. This is all by design to change things up, and it's very much connected with the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It's very much connected with NAFTA. So when someone makes a decision, we're going to pull out of Portland, and 80% of the activity is just going to vanish. And local Oregon businesses that are involved in the import-export business, they're about to see their costs go through the roof. Who does this benefit? It benefits Fred Meyer. It benefits Nestle. It benefits Safeway. It benefits Bimart. It benefits all these big box stores that we are so familiar with, while the little guy is going to take the hit. Video number 3, Senator Bill Hansell expresses concern at the loss of the Hanjin at the Port of Portland. Go ahead.
I'll go ahead and make my statement now at the outset rather than waiting to the end when I vote. As I said, there's strong feelings on both sides of this issue, and in my own heart and my own mind. There are two words that I think my dilemma about this issue revolved around. One is ashamed, and the other is appalled. I'm ashamed as an American that we have been involved in the wars without justification, in prisons without trials.
Port of Portland. Wheat is the #1 export from that port as far as commodities are concerned. I think we need to be involved in creating jobs and to help set the standard for enabling Oregon to move forward. We've got to do something, and what's happening in this particular situation is not good for Oregon.
So when I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, and by the way, the weather was so nice last Sunday, that's why I took the week off. I've also been busy working on the remodel of AlexAnsary.tv. I mentioned a couple weeks ago that this is probably going to lead to a situation to where the U.S. by design is dependent on China to help us out and fill the void in this case. So Hanjin is gone. Who will be replacing Hanjin? You're going to see. May take a year, may take a couple of years. Maybe to the point where the Oregonians are brought to their knees and they're begging the CCP. And you know, all these big Chinese corporations are controlled by the CCP. There's no separation of Chinese corporations and Chinese state. So that's something that I think that we're going to see down the line. Other news in Portland, Oregon. Portland has rejoined the JTTF. It was a 3-2 vote. And I believe Amanda Fritz and Steve Novick were the only two that voted against rejoining the JTTF. I was told that there was going to be testimony where people are going to be able to speak for their 3 minutes, so I presented something for City Hall and went down there. Then they made the announcements they weren't going to take any more testimony. In fact, they were voting on it, but they'll take testimony after the vote. And what I want to share with them was, you know, this whole thing is less about 9/11 and more about Muhammad, that supposed attempted terror strike or terror attack on the Christmas tree in downtown Portland. That was an FBI operation, just like 1993 in New York City. In that case, Ahmed Salam did not park the truck with the explosives where the FBI informants told him to park it. All this came out on CBS News. That's why only 6 died in New York in 1993. In this case, thank God, they didn't go through with the attack. But they set the guy up, they entrapped him, they probably paid him to do it, they gave him things, they showed him how to blow things up, and they basically took advantage of someone that was basically mentally ill, a willing dupe. And there are many willing dupes in this country and on this planet. Unfortunately, there's a mental health crisis caused by other things. It's another topic, but you know it's real. So it's pretty sick now that we got the federal government rallying around all these hate groups, black supremacists, white supremacists, ISIS, and terror cells, and coming up with headlines saying that women in America, American women, are becoming terrorists and joining ISIS on Facebook. Totally insane. And so knowing that that's insane, why believe what they're saying about this whole Somalian thing? And they admitted in all the reports, but they won't let you listen to the court transcripts. Very interesting. All the reports show that this was entrapment. So Amanda Fritz is the only council member in Portland that spoke against it. So we're going to be sharing the words of Amanda Fritz. With that, let's go to video number 4.
Rather than waiting to the end when I vote. As I said, there's strong feelings on both sides of this issue, and in my own heart and my own mind. There are 2 words that I think my dilemma about this issue revolved around. One is ashamed, and the other is appalled. I'm ashamed as an American that we have been involved in wars without justification, in prisons without trials, and in torture. I hate to even say those words. I have not too much trouble making decisions in this job, but sometimes I'm up late at night. Lately when I've been up late at night, I've been watching Ken Burns' series about World War II. And the moral clarity that we as a country had at the end of that war contrasts so appallingly.
Okay, so let me comment over this, pan it down just for a minute. And James, we're going to find the part with Amanda coming in. What I want to say is he started off his talk acting like he had sympathy and distrust, sympathy with the audience and those that are against Portland rejoining the JTTF, and a little disappointed in the actions of the federal government. But again, still pushing that narrative. That's the video. You were there. We're looking for Amanda. She's the female. So we're going to where she starts talking.
He talks of the Somali youth that he works with and said the way to win hearts and minds is not targeting them and making them feel like they are suspects. I grew up in England during the IRA bombings, so that was back in the 60s and 70s, long before people in this country felt unsafe going to a grocery store or a pub or a place of travel. I was in Europe the summer of 2001 and was really pleased to see the dog-sniffing guns at the airport in Paris, found the little metal statue that my son had in his carry-on suitcase, and were able to dig out the little mannequin key and find out that in fact it was a little statue and not a gun. And I was very used to in railway stations looking around to see whether there were any unattached belongings, because I had a friend in grade school whose brother was killed by the IRA in Ireland, and we had the centre of Manchester blown up. And Manchester's about the same distance as Salem is from here to my hometown. And yet we relied on community to make sure that when people were about to do bad things that we found out about it. And there were a number of terrorist activities which were dissuaded because people could trust the police to be working to keep everybody safe. We have a lot of trust issues, and to me that's the most urgent need that we have here. Yes, there are threats from terrorism. There are also threats from our community members not being able to trust us, elected officials, and not being able to trust their government.
Okay. So if you want to watch this full 30-minute dialogue, type into YouTube, Portland City Council votes to joint terrorism task force by 3-2. Now, One of the things that I also want to talk about, Portland is known as a pretty progressive town because of the number of protests at times that happen, but we see how people are easily duped into following the Pied Pipers and playing their part in amping up racial tension or creating division. There's a lot of upset people out there, and I've paid close attention to the videos from Occupy Portland. I was gone during that time, but also afterwards, and things happening recently with the Don't Shoot protests. And I talked at great length in other episodes at the gross disrespect that we're seeing from some of today's protesters. And let's not confuse this with race. Let's not confuse this with religion. Let's not confuse this with nationality. Let's not confuse this with city. We're kind of seeing this attitude across the board. There's a lot of angry people in this town. And even if you have activists together, I see this constant pattern of shouting over others, people blaming others, and there are certain people that are always showing up at the protest to cause problems. And the guy that you're about to see in this video, I've seen this guy in about 10 different videos. He's always trying to stir, the whole thing about the Don't Shoot PDX is to raise attention to black people being shot by police, at least officially. And so I've seen white protesters and Hispanic male protesters basically telling black women what to do and basically being rude and disrespectful. And that seems to be kind of detrimental. And you could even call it sabotage. And I don't think these guys are agents, but people are so far caught up in today's culture and their attitudes that they don't even realizing that, you know, their own attitude is causing a disruption. So with that, here's an example of that, video number 5.
And we're in here in these walls that represent a white Jesus that oppresses humanity.
He may not be white, may not be black, may not be red or brown, but it's to who we look at as a sure enough liberator.
Okay, let's scroll at least a minute in.
Let's be realistic here. Slaves were brought over to this land by Christopher Columbus. You know what I mean? And the place, what was the boat called? Does anybody know? What's your point? It's called Jesus Christ. That's my point. We are here in a settler colonial spot right here, asking our oppressors to help us get our freedom. We got 6 months, all right, so 6 months more of dialogue, and what's that going to do? We've been talking.
He does this a lot. When are we going to take action?
How many decades?
He's a provocateur, but he's not an agent. That's just how Mario is.
That made this country. And we're in here in these walls that represent a white Jesus that oppresses humanity. All right?
What he's doing is he's disrespecting a black church. That's what you're watching right now.
You know what I mean?
This is a black church.
The fact of the matter is we got the head of the PPA here, who's basically just kowtowing to a racist institution. He just wants his slice. Charlie Hales is essentially, y'all know what the definition of fascism, right? Corporation and melding of the state. Charlie Hales worked for the city, pioneered this streetcar, then leaves the city, and where does he go work? For the same streetcar that makes money off of the city. It's so
Mario, I would appreciate you getting to the question. But if you, I
get cut off when people want to make a statement. They can make a statement, but I'm getting cut off when I'm talking about some real things. Can you step back? I didn't get my chance.
This guy does this all over town, and there's a ton of people around him in his little follower circle that thinks like he's the dude.
In the meantime, get the bulletin cover from last week with the black Jesus on it.
Okay. If you're offended by that.
Now I want to address what I want to talk about, what you said. In this place, and in this particular faith community, we represent a Jesus of many colors.
Sit your ass down.
May not be white.
Sit your
may
ass
not be black.
Down.
May not be red or brown. But it's to who we look at as a sure enough liberator. Now, I don't know where you come from or what you do, but
Occupy
you can't
Portland.
assume what other people think and believe. Because if that's what you're doing, you can't think for me or anyone else in this room.
Okay,
that definitely
thank you very much. Now, you know, he's bringing up important points. It's when you get in someone's space and you say, no, we're going to divide and we're going to war over religion now. You go ahead and you have your views on religion and spirituality, atheism and hating Jesus and whatnot. You do, you go, boy. But what does that have to do with what any of those people were meeting in that church in this city in Portland, Oregon? Oh, I can just feel the love. By the way, I was kicked off the Occupy Portland Facebook page. Why? I posted a video from a clip from this show where I was talking about the insanity of the former mayor for wanting to change the code within the city so the taxpayers here would pay for sex changes for city employees. And because I posted that, the transgender moderators of that perceived me as being a gay basher. Because I simply shared an old video of mine on YouTube from this show where I'm like, what the hell? You know, we got people dying in the streets. We got people that need housing. Sure, some people need medical bills, but is it really necessary to have the change? Apparently, I'm told it is. I don't want to stand in the way of anybody's liberty, but I certainly will say there's a lot of people out there that think that that issue is more important than stopping the wars or anything else. And that's unfortunate. We should never be selfish with the issues. And there are some people that think activism is all about one thing and only that one thing and seeing everyone else as the enemy. And that's what I see from some members of the transgender community. But I will not go all the way and start attacking homosexuality and other people. It's the lack of respect. That's the issue. So then go ahead and ban me from the Facebook page. It's okay. But censorship like this, control attitudes like this absolutely exist in the Portland culture. Portland Charlie Hales was served recently by the Don't Shoot PDX group. I'm not sure where this was shot, but this was in Portland, I believe last night or the night before. This is video 6. Go ahead and roll it.
Here we go.
Can we just use this right now? Thank you.
Now that's Teresa, the woman that you saw in the last video, the younger one, sitting slightly to the right.
Oops.
Being a lifetime activist, I'm here to testify that today's activists, some of them, especially leaders, are nasty, hate-filled people that seem to be doing this just to bring attention to themselves. I don't see large groups of Portlanders gathering to protest the deaths of innocents in other countries, especially Afghanistan. You'll see Gaza once in a while. You'll see other protests relating to other things.
We have a bill in the
what I'm saying is it's hypocritical.
The legislature for the authority that we need to be able to do that. We can't just put body cam. Teresa, let me finish my.
Where's our banner?
I don't know, but
bring up the banner.
Okay, bring up the banner. We can't just put body cameras on our police officers today because we have to get the law changed about how the data is stored. So that's one issue in particular where I think we as a city will be moving towards transparency. I believe that body cameras on police officers will make the truth safer about what happened or didn't happen at a given incident out on the street. Well, welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to go to the university where security is looking up learning and being trained by police.
I heard they were doing that.
Yeah, so it's going to be getting rolled out soon. So we actually hope that that this actually helps to make that.
Okay, and this goes on for several minutes. So a couple things I want to say. This guy, this mayor, is a criminal. People should be protesting. People should engage in acts of civil disobedience. And that's interesting. They don't want to have body cams on the officers, but you also might want to be aware that it also gives the officer more evidence to use against you. So some cops are all for it. And so this is something to keep in mind. My point is that we see these acts of disorderly conduct, civil disobedience, and it seems that people are silent, though, about the other things if the president that they're in favor of is in office, and they see those issues as being maybe not issues that are important. And that's disturbing. But for those of us, let me complete this thought. that are on the path of truth and spreading the truth beyond the Democrat-Republican cult. It's difficult to relate to the mass way of thinking, or the 99%. Many of them boxed into Democrat-Republican thinking. And there's a growing number of us that are like in the other 1%, but not financial 1%, but independent thinking, of where we are not going to let our morals and integrity be jeopardized by wanting to believe in some Wizard of Oz president that actually gives a damn about us. And get involved in race and attacking people based on their color and saying all whites are racist. You know, and then there's also whites that say, oh, all blacks are you know what. They start seeing things in the news. They start being people being products of their environment, and by design, they're like, see, that's why we need segregation. So you need to pay attention to how the media is trying to get us boxed against each other, because they want to create a world where we want to start segregating more and more. And if we're not segregated, we're going to be hurting each other. And that's a big motivating factor behind a lot of the violence you're seeing in the streets. It's economically influenced, and it's influenced by the media that wants to see people act like hotheads. And when they act like hotheads and they pull out a gun and they shoot something, now they have the pretext for more control. Now they have the pretext for gun control. You know, and you see where the rest of this goes. So we're seeing social ills in Portland rising. Violent crime, as I've reported on the show. Video 7. Portland police kills himself. Let me do that again. Portland police say man kills himself after shooting at officers.
And Portland police spent most of the early morning hours patrolling the streets in Southeast after shots were fired at a strip club. It happened just after 11 last
strip
night.
Club, those
officers
primal...
tell Point 6 News that shots were fired at them, and then the shooter ran off.
At an
Our Brent
alcohol
Weisberg has been putting together
in
the
a
details
fallen
on
city,
this
the city of the wounded
story
goddess called Portland today.
He joins us live.
Of course these things will happen. Go ahead.
Carly and Mike, good morning to you. Portland police officers say that this was a very dangerous situation. None of their officers were hurt. It all happened here along Southeast Foster near 80th, right across from the Fred Meyer. Detectives say that this investigation is still in the very early stages. This is where everything went down late last night. Police say that a man who is now dead shot at officers. That prompted a massive citywide response. That means every single available officer throughout the city came to this scene here in Southeast Portland at Shimmer's Gentlemen's Club. Officers say that two police officers working together pulled up in their vehicle in the park.
Getting video number 8 ready. Portland's open air bike chop shop is the name of the headline from Coin 6.
Frustrated cyclist posted this video online. He says what you're looking at here is an open-air chop shop for stolen bikes. Of course, we wanted to know more about what's actually going on in this video.
It is getting so bad in inner Southeast.
To find out. He's live tonight in Southeast Portland. Tim.
Yep, that's where they are.
Yeah, I'm on the East Bank Esplanade, just north of the Hawthorne Bridge. The video was shot just over here behind me on Southeast Madison Street. You talk to anybody in the know, they'll tell you this area is the first place you look when you have a bike stolen. So it's frustrating when those same people see video like the one we're talking about.
So you have people that are processing the parts. First they stash them, then they process them. What you guys doing?
Oh, wait, dude. Yeah, go away, yo.
Why?
The man behind the camera here tells me he sees this every day. Even took the time to snap photos showing piles of bikes and parts, all of it in plain view from the Hawthorne Bridge.
Knock, knock. Anybody home? People are chopping up, parting out stolen bikes down here. Do you know anything about that?
I didn't find the two men confronted in the video.
I'm just asking you what you're doing, man.
All right, so let's just say you're walking down the street and you see...
But I did find out who
you see like a can of dog food that's just been spilled out onto the street. And, you know, you look at it and you're like, what was that? Did that drop out of the sky? And you start looking at that. Thank you for playing that. You start looking at that plop of dog food or you know, chili in a can just, you know, plop down the sidewalk, and you're walking around it in a 360 angle and you're like, I just don't understand it. Where did it come from? Did it drop from a plane? Did it come from a rocket? Is it alien poop? Oh my God, it's alien poop. Oh my God. Well, maybe if it's really green and it's got all that GMO stuff, it might really look like alien poop. But the fact of the matter is, somebody with a damn can opener opened up the can and went plop. Maybe someone threw it, but there was a cause and effect in the equation. We don't have to think about cans falling from the sky. You're like, what is Alex talking about? What is he? I'll tell you what I'm talking about. This problem, this homeless epidemic, did not just fall out of the sky. As people walk around and go, what did you do? Well, let me help you. America is on fire right now. And people are being pushed here that are both in the have and have not category. So you have Group A, hey, manifest destiny. America's whitest city. No social ills. Progressive. Picket fence. Great place to invest. Safe place for our little Julie. Safe place for our little Bobby. Yeah, there's a new one born every day. Oh, at least it's not LA. Oh, animal instinct. Run away from the drought. Why don't we all just go in the same place? Pitch our tent. It's going to be fine. Then you got other people who are like, hey, you're not allowed to park here. It's against the law to live in your car. Somewhere in Los Angeles, somewhere in Phoenix, somewhere in Washington. Oh, you're homeless. Hey, come here. Face against the wall. Bah! You know, it's like Portland has a rough, violent history, but they've toned it down because we're super popular and hip. So Portland's working to have a really good, we're progressive and we're trying to work through our crap thing going on. You dig? But it's all a cover. When this bubble pops, when the money stops rolling into Portland, we've got a massive beefed up police force and we've got a society dependent on the service industrial complex. And more jobs are being destroyed every day, blue collar jobs, just like with the Port of Portland. Homelessness comes from something. It comes from people being displaced. And there are also issues in a real economic decline, which is what we're really in. We have not recovered. You have discrimination of all different kinds happening in the workplace. Whatever form of discrimination it might be, and it may not be with your appearance whatsoever. It may be your personality. People that are non-sociopathic seem to have it the hardest in both the dating scene and work scene, which in many cases is very much related, very much about selling yourself in more ways than one. So, always look for the root cause. Being a state of just looking at this plop of dog food, you know, in inner Southeast and going, where did it come from? Is this evidence of aliens amongst us? No. No. You don't have to be Sherlock to understand somebody opened up the can and went plop. So, I hope people start to understand this city is not going to be in a positive space in the years ahead. There needs to be places for the homeless to go and build things, to improve their lives, to get off drugs and alcohol. The hatred of the homeless, the distrust of the homeless, that's bad mojo. And what do you get when that happens? Just like when there's racial tensions, you have people smashing windows out. Those are acts of desperation. Those are people saying, hey, I'm in so much pain that I'm going to bust out someone's car window. No one's doing anything about this. There's nowhere to go. And you know what homeless do to other homeless? There's no respect with some homeless. If you are someone that looks clean cut, I'm gonna have to get more water during the next break. If you are someone that looks happy, if you are someone that looks like you have something, like a camera, you are considered to be a competitor, just another person that has more than them. So not everybody that's homeless today is even aware of the bigger pictures. In fact, I even saw a van one day with a group that was living in their van in Laurelhurst Park during that time that I was living in the park in my vehicle last year, and there was an Obama sticker. An Obama sticker. Obama and Bush working together like brothers in the greatest bank robbery in the history of this nation that has contributed to the situation that we're in now. You want to talk about Stockholm Syndrome? And that's a new term for some of you to research, because that's exactly what's happening when people think that either this administration, the future, or the last has done anything to help us. Getting the next video ready, this is video number 9. This is a video I shot back in the summer of 2014. Okay, now I can remember what this is. It's been wiped clean by someone that didn't like the message, but someone wrote this last night. Where gold is God, you will find homeless man rejected, despised and hated by all his worshipers. The homeless in Babylon, he's us. So the people that wrote this, the homeless in Babylon, were sending a message. We are in the land where gold is God. And in the land of gold and God, you will find homeless man rejected. You know, the social outcast, despised and hated. So they're pushed even more on the brink of being a social outcast by all who worship greed. And that, I mean, I have been getting some big wake-up calls on that this week, staying here in this park. That Portland has changed into such a place where so much greed is worshipped. And this is not a new concept, but I see more of that now. Right, with all the people that have...
people camping
and several weeks ago, Willamette Week ran with the headline saying top 27 reasons why Portland rocks. And one of those reasons is Portland's whitest city. What people need to understand is that you need to not take offense to me bringing you these facts about the changing demographics in economics and racial demographics in Portland. Because it's really indicative of a tribalist mindset of certain people that are drawn here that want a city to be molded into their image. And a lot of people are drawn here from a certain part of Western Europe because this is a very similar climate to the one that their ancestors lived in. That's why you see the predominant redhead here. But there's also, listen very carefully, I have heard from Eastern Europeans throughout the internet that there's a lot of discrimination that they're feeling from Western Europeans towards Eastern Europeans in social settings in America. So it isn't necessarily darker skinned. It's also those that are clearly not from that specific part of Western Europe. Me relaying this reality has nothing to do with hatred or even necessarily resentment, although it is sad to experience it and know that the world really is moving in this direction. More or less to remind people, whatever color, whatever race, perception of race, whatever religion, keep your tribalist at times inclinations in check, because sometimes we're led by them without realizing that our lower self is in charge and our higher self is out for lunch, gone fishing. These are things to think about. This is food for thought. Do not confuse also the physical attractiveness of a woman with the goddess or spirituality. Expression of spiritual love, light, feminine, caring, compassion, empathy. Those are character assets. How someone looks in a certain outfit, how the tattoos look, how the earrings look, how the hair looks, how hard the penis gets when looking at such female, flaunting thy flesh. No, my brothers and sisters, it is about the content of one's character, not how they look in that dress. Beware of the woman in the red dress. And for some of you women out there, beware of the sharp-dressed man that knows how to play the game, unless playing the game and making men play the game is something that you're into. If so, have fun. Moving along to our next video, playing without audio. There is a geomagnetic storm that took place yesterday. Solar flares is something that I talk about, and when we have geomagnetic storms, you have changes, you have fighting, you have sexuality, you have creativity, you have projects, you have moving, you have things moving into action, you have emotion, you have life, you have this sense of connection with the universe. Solar maximums are very interesting times to be alive. Solar maximums and cycles of consciousness and evolutionary leaps within humanity. A topic that we bring up every now and then. If you haven't checked out my presentation on solar flares and their links to human consciousness on YouTube, you can see my presentation at the Free Your Mind Conference in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Okay, so we see in our world the dark feminine and dark masculine rising. We've talked about the dark masculine over the years. We've talked about the men putting on the super soldier, playing the video games, and going out and killing other families that did nothing to our country on 9/11, because the whole thing was a giant hoax in terms of the reality, the greater reality, excuse me, behind all those parties involved, including all those parties involved in the cover-up, which does include China and Russia. Now, this was a global operation to penetrate the Middle East, and the resources are being divided up, the loot is being divided up, and the games have already begun. That is dark masculine. Dark feminine is, it's killing your children. It's false rape allegations. It's doing whatever you can as a woman to destroy the spirit of the good man while constantly rewarding the bad man with love, affection, be it sexual or just simply cuddling or spending time with the man. There's something within human consciousness that continues to support the dominator, and there's something within human consciousness that seems to hate itself. And when someone truly hates themselves, they will truly hate other people. And when they hate other people or are conditioned to hate other people, they will do the most horrific things to other people, either to get back at them or to feel good for just a few seconds, even if what they're doing is inherently going to harm them. Video number 11. Police discussing charges for woman who made up rape story.
And good evening to you. Thanks for joining us here at 5 o'clock. I'm Jim Scott.
I'm Tammy Melchuk. Our top story tonight. Bakersfield police tonight say they are recommending the district attorney file charges against a woman suspected of making a false police report of rape last night. Officers say the woman told them she was attacked while exercising on the bike path. 17's Eric Richards is live near the bike path in central Bakersfield with the details tonight. Eric?
Well, Tammy, Bakersfield police say once they received the report, dozens of officers were on scene looking for evidence and, of course, looking for a suspect. Now, police say it wasn't until hours later that the woman told them she made up the story. The response was swift and strong last night when police say a woman reported she was raped. Officers say she told them it happened on the bike path near the South Allen Road Bridge just off Ming Avenue. The department says 30 officers responded because she reported she was raped while exercising alone.
We allocated every available resource and then some that weren't even available. We still allocated those resources.
But as officers continued to investigate, they say the woman fessed up.
It was later determined, and she told us that this actually didn't occur.
An action that prompted emergency alerts by BPD to nearby residents.
And it's a familiar story. Thank you for playing that. We're seeing more stories like this across the nation. You might remember a couple years ago, a woman in Vancouver, Washington, actually sprayed herself in the face with acid and said a black man did it. And it came out that she made it up. So what's going on in the minds of today's younger women that I've never seen women under 30 show awareness of any larger picture. It's always been Democrat, Republican in the box, or just libertarian. It's a groupthink collective. It's system oriented and based. For the most part, doesn't mean there aren't anarchists. But as far as like a good combination of political knowledge, a spiritual understanding, not just using your physical beauty to attain things, but actually having character. In today's society, I'm not so sure about the past. But I know that we're being really like blunted and our growth. You know, we don't have a normal rite of passage as a young man and woman. So there's a lot of effed up men and women out there, and a lot of women and men out there have issues with men and women and don't realize that the majority of men and women are effed up. And there's plenty of good men and women out there that are having trouble meeting other good men and women because there's an overabundance of manipulators that are both male and female around us. It's not just one sex, folks. It's that aspect of humanity that's in that sociopathic, non-empathetic, vibrational state of being. And so, what I think is happening is that sense of, hey, I need attention. I have to draw attention to me because I'm not getting enough attention through other means. So I'm going to hoax this story, and all of a sudden I'm going to have all this attention. Kind of like a vampire, like give me attention, like feed me, feed me. And, you know, make it I'm on the news, I'm a victim now. People are going to give me money, people are going to care about me. And because there's all this fake care about rape victims today, that, maybe people will care about them now because they're a rape victim. No. There still is a war on women that's not even being addressed. And knowing what you know, what I've told you about the Middle East and all the rapes taking place at the hands of U.S. troops, not all U.S. troops will do that. What I'm trying to explain is that the Pentagon keeps destroying rape kits to destroy evidence of when rape or gang rape takes place. And what happens, of course, to the Iraqis, nobody talks about that. There's more concern usually when it's a female soldier being raped. I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's fair at all, but that's another conversation. But that's where I think that mindset is coming from, where people make these fake reports. Now, there is a lot of focus on 50 Shades of Grey. And I won't watch the trailer for this. I won't go see the movie. I don't watch mainstream movies. Most of it is mind control. And so I asked a few people what's in this plot and seen people write articles about it and talk about the pornographic nature of it. And from what I gather, it's basically a man that either stalks a woman or rapes a woman or forces himself on her, okay? That's the plot. It's a friggin' romance story that perverts apparently the original 50 Shades of Grey, written by a woman, by the way. So this isn't like some male-dominated thing. Like, there are people that are really into the kink scene, and that's fine. That's fine. This is not going to be a show where we sit here and just criticize or make judgments, but when people have this obsession with looking at really lewd, violent things, which I think people are looking at more and more these days, whether it be video games, movies, and things that are within the movies that are reaching younger and younger audiences. For those of you that are 50, 60, 70, even 40, when you were a kid watching TV, and what was the guy on TV? Was it Red Ryder? Was it John Wayne? Who was on TV in the 60s, James? Was it Mr. Ed? That's right, there was Mr. Ed.
You want me to say something?
What shows do you remember growing up as a kid?
Just Mr. Ed was the only one I watched.
That was it? Then there was also Andy Griffin. It was actually a police officer that actually sit down and have a beer, cup of coffee with your with the local population.
Yeah, they should have had the talking horse on Andy Griffin's show.
Yeah, I liked Mr. Ed a lot. What was the other one? My Three Sons, I was never a really big fan of myself. But, you know, I remember growing up watching Nick at Night because it portrayed a happier time in America. But now it's like the man's the dummy and the woman's the gold digger, and it's just like, rawr, rawr, cats versus dogs, snakes versus rabbits. It's a Royal Rumble, you know, when you got people coming in shaking the ropes, and it's just a really insane spectacle in today's day and age. So be aware a lot of this is manufactured to bring down our country as they prepare us for where they're taking us into. So 50 Shades of Grey, all the money being put into it and all the popularity around it, it's a representation of what people are into. But there's a lot of reports about things happening in the theater. One woman was arrested for masturbating. So she's like, yeah, oh, rape her, oh, rape her, oh. Okay, so that's one thing going on. Another thing going on, a bunch of kids in Florida try to do a flash mob and try to take over the theater because they were denied entry. And we're going to play video of that in a minute. But in another case, a guy rapes a woman after seeing the movie. Not blaming the movie, I'm wondering, like, are there subliminals going on? Like, why all this obsession? And in another report, 2 gangs started fighting in the theater. So there's still stories coming out about the afterblow of the 50 Shades of Grey spectacle. And this is just one of those examples. Go ahead and roll it.
OCOE, FLA, February 17, UPI. A Florida mall said it's changing policy as a result of hundreds of teens rushing a movie theater that refused to sell them tickets to 50 Shades of Grey, police said. Hundreds of teenagers swarmed around the AMC theater at the West Oaks Mall in OCOE Saturday night, and about approximately 100 of the teenagers made it into the theater before its doors were locked, and attempted.
Okay, so you're getting the picture? A lot of stuff happening with 50 Shades of Grey. Go ahead and play 13. Woman arrested in connection with murder of her 3-year-old daughter. Dark, feminine, rising. Killing of thy life, one created.
Our Crystal Haynes is live in Nashua, New Hampshire for us tonight.
I'm seeing these stories across the nation exploding.
Right in that little
I've seen hundreds of stories with the same headline in
That's absolutely
the last
right. At least
year.
that's what we're hearing from the New Hampshire Attorney General's office. This home right behind me is where little Brielle Gage shared this home with her mother and her siblings. And tonight, her mother, Caitlin Marin, is accused of her murder. A life cut short, a neighborhood in shock.
The moment she told me I had to sit down because my heart was hurting so bad, I was just like, oh my gosh.
3-year-old Brielle Gage found unresponsive in her Oak Street home by police and pronounced dead just before Thanksgiving. The cause and manner of her death initially withheld.
The Nashua Police Department has been investigating the case since it was.
So now bringing it back, and now we're going to cover a couple of these really quickly. Number 14, number of homeless people in England increased by 55% since 2012. So this isn't just about Portland. This isn't just America. This is about what we're seeing in Europe. And so, you know, those attitudes about people not trying hard enough, or people trying to use the system, or people being mentally ill being the cause of homelessness, so you better not trust them. There must be something wrong if they're homeless. This just shows that it's happening in England and many other places as well. Not that like this is new to some of you, but for some, it might be. Go ahead.
The number of homeless people in England has increased by 55% since the year 2010. The figure was released by the Department for Communities and Local Governments. It shows that homelessness has jumped significantly since David Cameron became Prime Minister more than 4 years ago. According to official figures, 2,774 people slept rough in England last year alone. Data indicates that London now has 742 people sleeping rough every night. Charities blame the government's austerity measures and legal injustice for the increase in
and just
homelessness.
another thing to add,
They're not calling on the government
back in 2008 and 9, thank you for playing that, the search term sociopath or psychopath exploded on Google. And I think since that time period, 2008, 9, 10, for whatever reason, be it spiritual warfare, be it other forms of interference, regardless of your awareness levels and what you're willing to believe versus what you say is not possible. In the last few years, I've seen the truth movement in society, in relationships, in the workplace, just a breakdown in general between people. At one point, it was not a big deal for me to work at a restaurant in this town and do my show and go to school and do a daily show. And then the world seemed to turn on me after 2008 when I did not get on board and pledge my allegiance to the current so-called officer-in-chief, president-in-chief. But during the Bush years, there was a lot more support for content like this. It's a very difficult time to speak outside the box of the Democrat-Republican paradigm. I do want to say here before we close, I am looking for office space in Portland at this time. After 12 months of being home free in Portland, last few months living in a micro camper on wheels that a friend helped me build. I earned about $1,200. We put it together, and that's been my shelter. But now I'm looking for office space now that I'm doing a daily show. Otherwise, I'm just going to be parking, getting signal to signal wherever I can find internet connection. I got a budget of about $300 a month to work with. Someone is helping me achieve this goal of having a private space for my own studio. Active space in Portland won't rent to me because I don't have a cell phone and because I don't have enough utility bills to show that I have a residence. Even though I have an insurance, registration, and ID, and a bank statement, all linked at the same address, it's not enough. So I am looking to sublease for about $300 a month for either a room, but more specifically an office space, because I really don't have much problem living in my vehicle at the moment. And I have a place where I go shower and work out in Northwest Portland. So I'm doing better than most, but I'm driven. And now I'm doing alternative media full time. I'm also a poster for AMTV. Go to amtvmedia.com. You can see 15 articles a day that I'm posting for Chris Green. So I'm a lot busier than I used to. Get a hold of me if you want to help set up a meetup. I know about 10 to 15 people that want to start doing monthly meetups. So if you want to get in touch, submit stories, be a volunteer, help me build alternative media studio. Maybe we can get a couple things going that are fun. Let's just enjoy life while we can. For those of us that are kind of on the same level. Okay, so the show is about over. We're going to play this real quick. Raining fire, airstrikes rock ISIS positions in Iraq and Syria. It's pretty violent footage. We're just going to play the first 30 seconds. But people were horrified when this was happening when Bush did it. And here we are all these years later, and the same thing is taking place. All right, that's all we're going to show. But this is a lot like what we saw when Iraq was invaded. Now it's happening all over again. But the perception of the threat is real for a lot of people. They don't see this as fake. People have bought what they've been told about ISIS, no matter how many of the beheading videos have been believed or said to be fake by analysts across the world. Despite all the knowledge we have about the United States funding the Syrian rebels, all in time for ISIS to walk in there and start plucking them. How was ISIS able to do this? Literally right behind or alongside the United States military. I mean, seriously. For those of you that are in this, and you know, there was another video we were going to play, but we're not going to get into it tonight. But I told you, this is going to result in darker skin and Muslims getting killed or shot, and that's exactly what happened. And we don't have time to get into it, but it is happening. And people do respond to the propaganda that we're seeing. Now, we only have about a minute. Let's play this. This is a portion from my interview, an excerpt. Go ahead. Interviewing Freeman on my birthday. My birthday, February 25th, 2015. I'm now 1 year older. I am 35 years old. All right, go ahead. Okay, we got to get to this interview. It's okay.
There's actually the ranking of a website. And I think that's what's important for people to think about as I hand this back to you, Freeman, as we close the next few minutes. It's about the journey, not the destination. And people can really get caught up in the fear or the hope of what they want to come about from this, as opposed to just focusing on doing the right thing second to second, no matter what happens.
Okay, we're out of time.
Yeah.
So hey guys, AlexAnsary.tv is going online in the next few days, the next few weeks. So stay tuned for that. YouTube.com/AlexAnsary. Check out my YouTube channel, and if you don't watch that video, that interview in full, go ahead and go to YouTube.com/AlexAnsary. If you want to listen to my daily radio show, go to AmericanFreedomRadio.com, 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock West Coast time. That's 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. And if you listen to the show, I'll give out the call-in live number. Until next week, I'm Alex Ansary, reminding you the path to the ultimate truth and place of power still lies within. Good night.
When she's a